Hi everybody, we're here for the second reading of The Hobbit, or There and Back Again by J.R.R. Tolkien. You're here with Shane and Luke.
Hello again.
And Lily.
Hi.
And last night we got up to the point where Bilbo Baggins met Gandalf the wizard, and Gandalf invited Bilbo on an adventure. And the conversation ended like this. "Good morning," he said at last. "We don't want any adventures here, thank you. You might try over the hill or across the water." By this, he meant that the conversation was at an end. "What a lot of things you do use good morning for," said Gandalf. "Now you mean that you want to get rid of me, and that it won't be good till I move off." Oh dear, the washing machine's very noisy tonight.
Oh boy.
Not at all, not at all, my dear sir. Let me see. I don't think I know your name. Yes, my dear sir, and I do know your name, Mr. Bilbo Baggins. And you do know my name, though you don't remember that I belong to it. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me. To think that I should have lived to be good morning by Belladonna Took's son, as if I was selling buttons at the door. Gandalf? Good gracious me, not the wandering wizard that gave old Took a pair of magic diamond studs that fastened themselves and never came undone until ordered. Not the fellow who used to tell such wonderful tales at parties about dragons and goblins and giants and the rescue of princesses and the unexpected luck of widows' sons. Not the man that used to make such particularly excellent fireworks. I remember those. Old Took used to have them on Midsummer's Eve. Splendid. They used to go up like great lilies and snapdragons and laburnums afire and hang in the twilight all evening. You will notice already that Mr. Baggins was not quite so prosy as he liked to believe. Also, that he was very fond of flowers. Dear me, he went on. Not the Gandalf who was responsible for so many quiet lads and lasses going off into the blue for mad adventures. Anything from climbing trees to visiting elves or sailing in ships, sailing to other shores. Bless me, life used to be quite you used to upset things badly in these parts once upon a time. I beg your pardon, but I had no idea you were still in business." "Where else should I be?" said the wizard. "All the same, I'm pleased to find you remember something about me. You seem to remember my fireworks kindly at any rate, and that is not without hope. Indeed, for your old grandfather Took's sake, and for the sake of poor Belladonna, I will give you what you asked for." You want to start reading next?
I beg your pardon. I haven't asked for anything. Yes, you have. Twice now. My pardon. I give you it. In fact, I will go so far as to send you on this adventure. Very amusing for me, very good for you, and profitable too. Very likely if you ever got over it. Sorry, I don't want any adventures, thank you. Not today. Good morning, but please come to tea, and anytime you like. Why not tomorrow? Come tomorrow. Goodbye. With that, the Hobbit turned and scuttled inside his green door and shut it as quickly as he dared, not to seem rude. Wizards after all are wizards. What on earth did I ask him for tea for? He said to himself as he went to the pantry. He had only just had breakfast, but he thought a cake or two and a drink or something would do him good after his fright. Gandalf, in the meantime, was still standing outside the door and laughing long but quietly. After a while, he stepped up and, with the spike on his staff, scratched a queer sign on the Hobbit's beautiful green front door. Then he strode away. It's just about the time Bilbo was finishing his second cake and beginning to think that he had escaped adventures very well. The next day he had almost forgotten about Gandalf. He did not remember things very well, unless he put them down in his engagement tablet, like this: Gandalf tea Wednesday. Yesterday he had been too flustered to do anything of that kind. Just before tea time there came a tremendous ring on the front doorbell, and then he remembered. He rushed out to put on the kettle and put out another cup and saucer and an extra cake or two, and ran to the door. "I'm sorry to keep you waiting," he was going to say, when he saw that it was not Gandalf at all. It was a dwarf, with a blue beard tucked into a golden belt, and very bright eyes under his dark green hood. As soon as the door was opened, he pushed inside just as if he had been expected. He hung his hooded cloak on the nearest peg. Dwalin at your service, he said with a low bow. Bilbo Baggins at yours, said the Hobbit, too surprised to ask any questions for the moment. When the silence that followed had become uncomfortable, he added, I'm just about to take a tea. Pray come and have some with me." A little stiff perhaps, but he meant it kindly. And I'm getting nervous. And what would you do if an uninvited dwarf came and hung his things up in your hall without a word of explanation?
That's good.
Okay, yeah.
Well, what would you do if a dwarf just turned up at your door unannounced?
I don't know.
I think you'd invite him in for tea, for sure.
Yeah.
They'd not been at the table long. In fact, they had hardly reached the third cake when there came another, even louder ring at the bell. "Excuse me," said the Hobbit, and off he went to the door. "So you have got here at last." That was what he was going to say to Gandalf this time, but it was not Gandalf. Instead, there was a very old-looking dwarf on the step with a white beard and a scarlet hood, and he too hopped inside as soon as the door was opened, just as if he had been invited. "I see they have begun to arrive already," he said when he caught sight of Dwalin's green hood hanging up. He hung his red one next to it and
Balin at your
Balin
service.
at your service. I know hiccups. He said with his hand on his breast.
Yep. On his chest.
Oh, okay. "Thank you," said Bilbo with a gasp. It was not the correct thing to say, but they have begun to arrive. Had flustered him badly. He liked visitors, but he liked to know them before they arrived, and he preferred to ask them himself. He had a horrible thought that the cakes might run short, and then he, as the host, he knew that his duty and stuck to it, however painful he might have to go without. "Come along in and have some tea," he managed to say after taking a deep breath. "A little beer would suit me better if it is all the same to you, my good sir," and said Balin with the white beard. "But I don't mind some cake," seed cake, if you have any. Lots. Bilbo found himself answering to his surprise, and he found himself scuttling off to the cellar to fill a pint.
To fill a pint beer mug. It's good that you don't know
Pint beer
what
mug.
that is.
And then to a pantry to fetch 2 beautiful round seed cakes, which he had baked that to a party. No,
Which he had
baked
baked that
the
afternoon.
afternoon for his after-supper morsel. When he got back, Balin and
And Dwalin.
Dwalin
I
were
think it's
taking
Balin and Dwalin.
were talking at the table like old friends. As a matter of fact, they were brothers. Bilbo plumped down the beer and the cake in front of them, when the loud came and rang at the bell again, and then another ring.
Sorry, the dogs are going a little bit crazy.
Jake, come here. Sit. No, sit.
Gandalf was
Lying down.
certain this time.
Sit.
He thought as he puffed along the passage,
Doing my
but
head.
it was not.
Go.
It was
No,
2 more
go.
dwarfs, both with blue hoods, silver belts, and yellow beards, and each of them carried a bag of tools and a spade.
More dwarves.
Wait, do I go to here?
Yeah, just go up to.
This time?
Go up to just there.
This time. Okay. In they hopped. As soon as the door began to open, Bilbo was hardly surprised at all. "What can I do for you, my dwarves?" he said. Killy at your service," said the one. "And Billy," added the others, and they both swept off their blue hoods and bowed.
I'll take over now.
Yes.
At yours and your family's, replied Bilbo, remembering his manners this time. Dwalin and Balin here already, I see, said Killy. Let us join the throng. Throng, thought Mr. Baggins. I don't like the sound of that. I really must sit down for a minute and collect my wits and have a drink. He had only just had a sip in the corner while the 4 dwarves sat round the table and talked about mines and gold and troubles with the goblins and the depredations of dragons and lots of other things which he did not understand and did not want to, for they sounded much too adventurous, when ding-dong-a-ding-lang, his bell rang again, as if some naughty little hobbit boy was trying to pull the handle off. Someone at the door, he said, blinking. Some 4, I should say, by the sound, said Philly. Besides, we saw them coming along behind us in the distance. The poor little hobbit sat down in the hall and put his head in his hands and wondered what had happened and what was going to happen and whether they would all stay for supper. Then the bell rang again, louder than ever, and he had to run to the door. It was not 4 after all, it was 5. Another dwarf had come along while he was wandering in the hall. He had hardly turned the knob before they were all inside, bowing and saying, "At your service," one after another. Dory, Nori, Ori, Owen, and Glowen were their names, and very soon two purple hoods, a grey hood, a brown hood, and a white hood were hanging on the pegs, and off they marched with their broad hands stuck in their gold and silver belts to join the others. Already it had almost become a throng. Some called for ale, and some for porter, and one for coffee, and all of them for cakes. So the hobbit was kept very busy for a while. A big jug of coffee had just been set in the hearth. The seed cakes were gone, and the dwarves were starting on a round of buttered scones, when there came a loud knock, not a ring, but a hard rat-tat on the hobbit's beautiful green door. Somebody was banging with a stick. Bilbo rushed along the passage, very angry and altogether bewildered and bewildered. This was the most awkward Wednesday he ever remembered. He pulled open the door with a jerk, and they all fell in, one on top of the other. More dwarves, 4 more. And there was Gandalf behind, leaning on his staff and laughing. He had made quite a dent on the beautiful door. He had also, by the way, knocked out the secret mark that he had put there the morning before. Now we're going to leave it there for tonight. We hope you enjoyed part 2 of our little adventure. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night. Have a good night.
Bye.